Namaskaram, everybody. Let's begin. Om Bijapuragadekshukarmakurajab chakrabjapashodphala Vrayyagrasvapishanratnakalashaif prodhyatkaram bhoruvaha Dheyo vallabhaya sapadmakaraya ashlishtojvaladbhushaya Vishwotpatti vipatti samsatikaro vignesha ishtardhada Shri Natadi Gurutrayam Ganapatim Pitatrayam Bhairavam Siddhaugam Vatukatrayam Padayugam Dhuti Kramam Mandalam Veerandhyashtachatushkashashtinavakam Veeravali Panchakam Shriman Malani Mantraraja Sahitam Vande Gurur Mandalam Matharme Madhukaita Bhagni Mahishaf Pranapaharodhyame Hela Nirmita Dhumra Lochana Vadhe He Chandamundardhini Nisheshe Kritarakta Bijadhanuje Nitye Nishumbhapahe Shumbhadvansini Samhara Suduritan Durge Namaste Ambike Shri Chandi Mahalakshmi Shri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Maha Sadgurum Shri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha. Welcome all of you for this another session, or maybe a new session that we are starting, which is going to be very intriguing and interesting, perhaps, because this is all about practitioners' inquiry about performing sadhana. So let me introduce the topic actually. A student of our Mahavidyalaya recently wrote a letter to me actually, and asking certain concerns about the practices. And in that, the Vidyarthi mentioned that I do not want to develop Bhandasura symptoms. You know, is it really Bhandasura symptoms that I am like, whatever is happening to me, is it Bhandasura symptoms? I read that email that whole day in different intervals, and I was laughing and laughing and laughing, actually, I mean, it really, even now when I think about it, I can laugh actually. But it deeply raised certain concerns and questions within me actually. I could look into my own travel, and I could see, being a practitioner, and even still being a practitioner, a sadhaka, what it is all about. What did my teachers say? How did I evolve, and how did I come through this? Like, many questions were there. And I also realized that anything that we wanted to do in this world, there is always a gap between the theory and the practice. That is very unfortunate. you know and it is not that easy to escape that theory versus practice. And that is the bridge that we are trying to that gap that is there is what we are trying to bridge actually through what is called as learning from the teacher systematically, and trying to get practical insights, and go through this process in a very effective manner. So, basically, let's it's all about, it starts with questions like, which mantra should I chant, and which puja should I do, how many malas should I complete, how should I do the parayan. These are the basic questions that come in, but a very few actually land up asking, like, what kind of a human being I'm becoming through my spiritual practice actually. And that is what has inspired me to take this lecture, or maybe the series of lectures that is going to come from this, the Sadhaka series that we have mentioned, and eventually going to unfold a lot of important dimensions of doing the sadhana. Let's understand the learning outcomes of this session. The learning outcomes are nothing but, today we are not studying a demon. Let me tell you very clearly. We are not here to study about the demon Bhandasura, but we are studying about ourselves, our motivations, Perhaps we are trying to encounter our own hidden tendencies or our own spiritual, what I would say, the blind spots that we have actually. And this purpose is all about self reflection and refinement. And that is what we are trying to discover here. Let's move forward. Who is a sadhaka? Who is a sadhaka? A sadhaka is not merely someone who actually performs rituals, let me tell you. A sadhaka is someone who consciously participates in his or her own transformation, because it is believed or it is said that it is very difficult to change ourselves. It as far as this world is concerned, you need to, it's really difficult to change certain characteristic features of individuals, because they are born with certain qualities, or to develop certain qualities, it is not easy for everybody. So these kind of theories are there, but a sadhaka actually outgrows these theories, and there's a transformation is there. Actually, there's a transformation, and that transformation is definitely step by step. Actually, it is governed. It is not a kind of, it is not a kind of a one night process. Actually, it takes time. Systematically they evolve in the process, actually. And in that evolution of process, the sadhaka might or may or have to involve in japa, homa, puja, parayana, all these aspects. That is, in other words, shravana, manana, nididhyasana. This is what is very foundation, the shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Now the question will come actually. For decades, I had been doing sadhana, but there is no transformation happening. We have to understand one thing: spiritual activity and spiritual growth are not the same thing. Spiritual activity, we might be involved in doing spiritual activity, but if that spiritual activity is not bringing the growth, that is spiritual growth, then there is a gap in the learning. There is definitely a gap in the learning. There is definitely a gap in the practices that we are involved and the learning that is taking place actually. So now let's go a bit deeper into spiritual activity versus spiritual growth, why it is not the same actually. What are the challenges of being a sadhaka? You know, one of the more, we in Chandi Tantra Maha Vidyalaya, we try to make it very easy, for most of you. It's okay, fine, you can balance your work, your profession, your family, attend the classes, we monitor you, we govern you, we show you a path and everything. But it is very difficult in a way to work on, because the challenges come from relationships, the challenge comes from workplace, the challenge comes from emotions, the challenges come from expectations, the challenges come from disappointments, and eventually the challenges comes from what is called to be your own ego itself actually. And that is what is very central to our to today's class. I feel actually, because we simply say this word ego, maybe here we are trying to interpolate it and trying to understand this in a better manner actually. So when we talk about being the challenges of a sadhaka, there's a lot of what I would say that uh, spiritual prestige involved for people. Most of them actually, they have to maintain that identity of being a sadhaka. They get a sense of a pride actually. I do sadhana, I learned Durga Saptashati. I can chant Durga Saptashati. I belong to this school actually. He or she is my guru. This is my guru parampara. I wore red color and I performed a massive Chandi Homam recently. Quote unquote. Like, I mean, there is this what I name this the pseudo sadhaka actually. The who is actually in seek of some kind of a recognition actually. The genuinity which is supposed to be there in the sadhana eventually gets lost actually for such pseudo sadhakas. The refinement that is needed gets completely lost, and they are only into showing off the practices. There is a lot of show off, there is a lot of display of the practices. There is they declare their spiritual superiority in a way. And this is something very important to a lot of you, because today I've started talking one on one with a lot of students. Today we have started with a meeting, and this entire month I'll be talking to a lot of students. They keep talking about or focusing on experiences. This happened in my mind. I got this vision. My mind started becoming cool after I chanted Kavacham. All of a sudden, I started feeling that there is sweat that is there in my body. I mean, you know, uh, these giving rather than focusing on doing the sadhana, they are very much interested in that experiences actually. That the outcome becomes very important. And in that, what they will land up doing is that they will land up judging themselves, and they will land up judging others. Oh, this person is writing reflection like this, I am not able to write. Is my reflection is worthy enough? you know do I even count that I can write it in Facebook? If somebody will respect me whatever I'm writing. You are writing reflection for me. I am the one who is reading. I am the one who is giving a like. I am the one who is giving comment. Why you should bother about the entire world that is around you actually? Correct or not? You land up judging yourself, and you land up judging others very quickly. And all these, technically the Shastras talk about what is called as a neophyte stage actually. This, in other words, I would say the honeymoon period actually. Once the honeymoon period is over, gone. It's the early stages of doing the sadhana actually, or getting into the relationship with Devi and the Gurukula or the Guru actually. It's a lot of enthusiasm, so much of excitement, lot of impatience. Particularly, we will get these kind of questions. I will get these kind of questions. When will I get the results? Is there any benefits of chanting Devi Mahatmyam? When will Devi appear in front of me and talk to me? When will all my problems will get disappeared? You know, when will I get this kind of an experience that that person is narrating? That person is getting sweat. That person is able to perceive Devi. That person is able to talk to Devi. When will I get all these kind of emotions? When will I get into that? Purely, this is called as the neophyte stage in sadhana. The Shastras very clearly declare that we have to be very careful during the early stages of sadhana actually. you know uh, Both as a practitioner and as a teacher, we have to be that maintain that strictness. This is the sadhana, this is what you're supposed to do. You have to, there might be a lot of mechanical way of doing it, but it has to be done in that particular manner only. Until unless there is an evolution that comes from the teacher saying that, okay, this is what you're supposed, you cannot use your sensibilities there actually. That is what is very important actually. You might have a lot of questions, you might have thought process, but there is no space for that actually, because the channelization of the emotions have to happen. The channelization of the physiological, psychological, and emotional, spiritual, all kinds of quotients should come together actually. If there is only questions or if there is only concerns, it will never ever evolve. And that's the reason, unfortunately, there is a lot of students who keep jumping from one guru to the other, one mandali to the other. They quickly judge because they land up judging everybody so easily. Today also, I landed up getting a message from a very nice student of our Mahavidyalaya saying that I am so worried, will I be able to live up to the standards of Mahavidyalaya? Who has standards of Mahavidyalaya? I am worried whether I'll be able to write reflections. Look, you are doing it for yourself and you're doing it for me. I myself, I don't judge. As a teacher, I only evaluate. You understand? Nobody has the right to judge anybody in this world, actually. If anybody has to judge, Devi alone can judge. And she also doesn't judge us, actually. She's Avyaja Karuna Murti, actually. If that is the case, what audacity we have to judge others, actually, you tell me? Or rather, we'll end up judging our own self. What this is doing to us, it is creating an obstacle. It is creating an obstacle for our own path, actually. Nothing else, but it is creating an obstacle. I know today's class is very serious. Now let's look into the next stage, the intermediate stage. What the Shastras talk about. Now, in the intermediate stage, what is happening? There is some knowledge that's accumulated. Okay, I've completed first semester, quote unquote. So this is often the most dangerous stage, actually. When you have learned a little, the sadhaka might start saying what? Start comparing traditions, start comparing gurus, start comparing practitioners, start comparing the knowledge, start comparing that is the way it is taught there. He is teaching in this particular manner. In that particular video for Lalita Sahasranamam, that guru is giving this kind of an interpretation, whereas he is saying like this, actually. So what happens? The knowledge is creating an identity, or maybe that fact, this is a place where I study. They really teach like so much. You create a kind of an identity, actually. And all these things are leading to what? Nothing but again stagnation. Simply stagnations. Because here we are in a gurukula, we are trying to do all these religious studies and spiritual practices to become identity less, rather, you know or rather we wanted to merge our identity with the higher self. But here what we do, we create a different kind of an identity altogether, leading to nothing but identity crisis. And the advanced stage, the next one, actually, at the stage where the ego is supposed to be subtle, it has to become much more subtle. But here what will happen? Now I know, I have experienced, I have understood, that I becomes very central to us, actually. That I, which we are supposed to completely get rid of, that I has become an Vasana itself with the spiritual practices. We have come here to become, what is called as get rid of our own Vasanas, get rid of our own karma. But what has happened? By learning all these things, we have accumulated a separate, different kind of an Vasana itself, actually. The Vasana of the Sadhana. And honestly, it is very easy to get rid of even the physical, the material ego that we have. But it is very difficult to get over the spiritual ego, that if we develop that, we are gone, actually. If the spiritual ego is developed now, it is the most dangerous thing that can happen to us. Now, when we are talking about all these three stages, then there is a question will definitely come in students, that what is sadhana and what is upasana? Sadhana versus upasana, when we talk about, upasana is, let me put it in different dimensions, actually, because sadhana versus upasana, we will talk about this in a very separate session, the core word, what they mean and everything. Here I am trying to give an overall kind of an understanding. Upasana is a specific practice, of a particular devata, and that comes from where, that starts from the sadhana, actually. Sadhana is the stepping stone, and upasana is the process of, is the stage of maturity. Sadhana might include upasana, but sadhana is the foundation and upasana is the higher stage of the sum total experiences that should culminate of your sadhana or the journey that you are put into. And then you reach a stage where you have established the relationship between yourself and your ishta. That is called as upasana. Got it? Hmm? Now let's go to the next aspect, because the concept is all about Bhandasura. Let's try to understand who's Bhandasura. Most of you know, and we have also dealt the topic in Lalita Sahasranama, the Purva Bhaga. Bhandasura emerges from the ashes of Kama, and the symbolism is very important because he's not born of wisdom. This is something which you all should make a note of, actually. Since he's not born out of wisdom, what is happening? Bhanda is actually born from a lot of unresolved desires. Now, that's a key word to all of you. What they generally say, we have taken birth again because our desires are not fulfilled. Therefore, we have taken birth to fulfill those desires. Correct? Yes or no? They say this. So the definition is somewhere, it is working out to us actually. But if we have to understand the symbolic meaning that is coming out actually, like who is this Bhandasura all about? Like because he is desire without wisdom, power without humility, and it's all about knowledge. Definitely there is huge knowledge is there, but there is no refinement in the knowledge. There is no refinement in the knowledge. There is a lot of achievement is there, but there is no humility is there. Therefore, this is just not something that is talking about the Puranas, which has happened long, long ago, so long ago. This is a problem with most of us, actually. You know, and this is what called as our spiritual forgetfulness that we are involved into. And my guru will straightforward say this, in today's time, most of us are doing all this spirituality and this entire business is nothing but an entertainment, actually, spiritual entertainment. We want to entertain ourselves, or rather, we have to show our self victimization. So, spirituality and religion becomes a very important tool to show that we are victims, actually. And we are seeking something that we are victim, actually. And we are seeking something through this process that, I'm a victim, therefore Devi should be my savior. Devi is the one who should protect me or guide me, should be giving me power. All these narratives we create, actually. Therefore, coming back to the symbolic understanding is bringing in what is called as directly leading to our personal characteristics. What it is actually, four important things actually. There's a lot of arrogance within us. There's a lot of insecurity that is present within us. Also, there is a lot of entitlement that we create, you know, mine and thine. And because of all these three things, arrogance, insecurity, and entitlement, what is happening? We are not able to surrender 100%. There is no surrender 100%. So, such a person may appear powerful. Such a person might externally look like a sadhaka, a great bhakta, a great jnani, but totally restless internally. Totally restless internally. When we talk about Bhandasura, the characteristic, what is the primary thing that Bhandasura is seeking actually? Three things. Three things: control, domination, influence. Control, domination, and influence. And all kinds of relationships for such Bhandasuras, they become instruments of self validation actually. Instruments of self validation. They want to get validated, therefore they will create relationships actually. If the relationship is not validating, then the relationship is gone. So, to sum up this and put it into the idea of spirituality and religion that we are trying to discuss or trying to talk here, is all about a Bhandasura can be highly religious. Please understand. Bhandasura can be highly religious. Bhandasura can even be highly spiritual. Let me tell you. Bhandasura can even be highly spiritual. But that spirituality is coming from four main qualities for such a Bhandasura: possession, status, identity, power. Possession, status, identity, power. But actually, a person who is deeply spiritual, sorry, deeply religious, and from religion, he or she evolves towards spirituality. What is religion and what is spirituality will be a very important question. We will get into there later. Somebody who is deeply religious has evolved to the levels of spirituality. The only thing that should happen to him or her is transformation. But whereas this Bhandasura, who is highly religious and spiritual, will be possessive, will be statusful, will be into identities, and will be into back of power mongering actually. Now, before we go to the next slide, let's do a small activity. This activity is completely anonymous. Your names are not going to appear. I will also be not knowing. You are going to do an online poll and let's see the results of the poll. So you in on your screen, you see the poll. Read the question and you can get the poll. You can just answer the poll. What is your greatest challenge as a sadhaka? See, I told you, you are not alone in this journey. You all wanted friends everywhere, right? See, you have friends here. Consistency is taking over the poll, and the second one is all about laziness, and the third one is going to family. There is nothing right or wrong answer here. Let me tell you outwardly, we are trying to understand the patterns that we have, and we always wanted to see the patterns in others, and that's the reason this poll is there actually for us to understand. So consistency, laziness, and then it is ego and anger is almost equal in the poll, and then we have work pressure. That is thankfully the last thing actually. Like, I think you're all having good work balance and going good, so you all let you continue like that actually. So thank you for this poll, Isha. Thank you for conducting it. So like, and why did we conduct this poll? As I told you, we want to understand, the patterns that we all individually, what I have, where the others are also belonging to actually. And this is very important because we are comparing the Sadhaka to Bhandasura. And Bhandasura's references with Lalita Sahasranama. So what are the references that we get from Lalita Sahasranama? Like, let's look into it actually. Nama 65 from Lalita Sahasranama, Bhandasura Vadotyukta Shakti Sena Samanvita. 72, Bhanda Sainya Vadotyukta Shakti Vikrama Harshita. 74, Bhandaputra Vadhotyukta Bhala Vikramanandita. 79, Bhanda Surendra Nirmukta Sastra Satyastra Varshini. 82. Kameshwarastra Nirdhagda Sabhandasura Sunyaka. So like this, I'm not getting into the explanation because you know that there is Lalita Amritam series are there and I'll be explaining them at that point of time. So these are the references that we are getting from Lalita Sahasranamam directly about this Bhandasura actually. And why it is relevant today, because the relevancy is very important, because it's not that you simply chant the Lalita Sahasranama and you perform a Mangala Arati and you give a list to her saying that these are the things I needed, because I chanted Lalita Sahasranama and I performed the Mangala Arati, you better give me this. If you're not going to give me this, I'm going to another deity. Otherwise, if you are not there, I have hundreds of other gods to go, so better you fulfill. We'll end up even threatening her actually, you know so, why it is relevant today? Because Bhandasura is not merely mythological, historical, or religious, because these tendencies that we are talking about, where spirituality becomes an identity, where knowledge becomes pride, where the practice becomes performance, and the devotion becomes nothing but unfortunately self promotion, then this entire relevance of what we are trying to do with ourselves in the name of spirituality is something very important that we need to raise to ourselves actually, because nobody can give this answer except for ourselves. Just the way we are, it's it is it really an addiction that we have actually, to show off that I am religious or spiritual? Are we really spiritual? Are we really religious? Today, which quality of mind which I identified that it is so wrong that I have, that I am really working on it, I am repenting to Jagannatha that I really wanted to come over it. I really seek solution, I really seek guidance, I really seek light on it. you know how many of us are not really creating harm for ourselves and for others? When I'm talking about harm, it is in all ways, manasa vacha karmana, in every sense I'm talking about harm actually. Either we want to inflict harm upon ourselves or we want to inflict harm upon others actually. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? How many of us are really very careful when we talk about others? In Tamil they say பழி கஞ்சனாலா கூட பாவத்துக்கு அஞ்சனம். We have to be very careful. We just land up making statements about others just like that, without even realizing, without even knowing that we are harming. How many of us have a control on all these things? How many of us truly doesn't gossip? A very basic quality. you know then what sadhana are we trying to do? This is something very important, students, that we need to ask. Are we simply chanting some mantras, doing colorful pujas for festivals, or maybe a part of this Maha Vidyalaya trying to learn these mantras? You know, are we also becoming another Bhandasura in real sense? Because Bhandasura, as we understood, is only religious and spiritual. Let's understand the core theories that is coming from Sri Vidya actually. There are three different theoretical perspectives that I'm going to introduce, Kamakshi. One is the three malas that Sri Vidya theory talk about actually. The first one is the Anava Mala. This Anava Mala is all about the feeling of separateness. Since we are not able to identify ourselves with the cosmic dimension, we feel that we are limited. That sense of I is making us constantly feel limited, because we are not able to relate ourselves with Jagannatha Parashakti, that we belong to her and we are a part of her, and we rather land up being that individual. What is happening? I am different, I am isolated, therefore I am incomplete. Therefore, I am incomplete. Because of that incompleteness, we want to create that completeness So we compete within this material existence. And when we compete in this material existence, of course, everything is incomplete here. We rather land up feeling fulfilled. We land up feeling more miserable, actually. And it continues in cycles. And these cycles are nothing but karmic cycles. Got it? The Anavamala. The second theory talks about the Mayayamala. The Mayayamala is nothing but the distorted perception that we have about the reality, or seeing reality through the conditioning. You would have all heard about this very famous example that the Shastra give about, a person who is walking in the dark. You throw a rope on them, might identify that with a snake, actually. The snake versus the rope. Otherwise, somebody who can't see, they have a huge, gigantic, an animal like elephant in front of them, and you ask them to touch and try to identify. You know, I'm not repeating them. I hope you understand and you have come across these examples. So, what it is all about, a distorted perception, actually. Your lens is being screened, actually, that you can't see the reality because of the conditioning that because of the conditioning what because of the conditioning that is coming from the Anava Mala, basically. And because of the Anava Mala and the Maya Mala, the Karma Mala is something, it is like a scaffolding from Anava to the Maya, from Karma, which is all about, it's all about the residual impressions that we are carrying. And because of the residual impressions, all our reactions are so conditioned. And because of being conditioned, unfortunately, the patterns get accumulated for lifetimes, actually, and we are suffering for that. Lifetime of patterns. Okay. Let me introduce a theoretical perspective. The three granthis that are mentioned in the Sri Vidya theories, and also it is mentioned in the Lalita Sahasranama, actually. The Brahma Granthi, where it is located and everything, we will look into it as the classes are unfolding. But here I am just introducing these concepts. The Brahma Granthi is all about the attachment towards this body, the attachment for survival, the attachment for the possessions that are there, actually. That keeps us committed towards this body, actually, this particular body that we are in, actually. If anything is there, we are only important, and then only everything else comes in, actually. That I is so centered on this particular space, and that is all about the Brahma Granthi, actually. And the second one is the Vishnu Granthi. Vishnu Granthi is all about, because when I am so grounded on myself, my survival and my possessions, the next is the relationships, actually. The attachment that we wanted to develop, the identities or the patterns or the emotional validation which I spoke to you, that is exclusively a part of this Vishnu Granthi, actually. These are granthis are nothing but knots, actually. These knots are very strong within our system, actually, within our psycho-social, spiritual, religious, sexual, emotional, in all systems. These granthis are so much, intertwined, actually. And moving forward, the Rudra Granthi is nothing but ultimately your spiritual experiences, the powers that you might derived through spirituality or religious practices, the insights that you might develop, the knowledge that you develop, all of them leading to binding yourself towards this world rather than liberating you from this world, actually. So that is ultimately defined as the Rudra Granthi. So therefore, when we combine these theories, and the next theory, when we talk about the five senses, actually, the very important thing, for a normal individual who doesn't understand this language of sadhana or performing sadhaka, being a sadhaka and everything, it's all about what is called as, they consume and there is a reaction, actually. Consume means what? They consume from the environment through various senses, and based on their consumption, they'll end up reacting, actually. You understand what I'm trying to say, the language of consumption which I'm using actually. Consumption means I'm not typically talking in terms of eating. Actually, I'm talking in terms of a broad economic or a social political understanding of consumption here. Actually, what you perceive, and with that perception or what you receive, you react. Actually, that's the kind of a thing that we do. But expected refinement in a sadhaka is what actually, when the same sadhaka, when the same individual, the normal person who is doing sadhana, what should happen? They should be able to, what is called as, deeply able to absorb what they are receiving, what is there in the environment, what is there within themselves. They should be able to bring in what is called as a restraint behavior, restraint activity towards their own self, towards others. They should have developed an awareness about their own body, mind, language, sensibility, emotions, and everything. And they should be able to put everything within the sacred dimension in terms of using it more of externally, these senses. They should be able to use them for the practice of their sadhana. Actually, they should be able to invest everything, as a samarpanam to Parambika herself. Actually, there should be engagement of all these activities or all these aspects within sadhana. And this is where we identify three kinds of difficulties that comes in. Again, the theory talks about actually. One is the adhyatmika, which is internal. And when it is internal, it is all about mind, emotions, and thoughts. There is a kind of a great deal of disturbance. There's a kind of a great deal of, a battle that goes through with our emotions and thoughts, which is directly related to the mind. And Adi Bhautika, which is all external, that is what people might think. We land up saying, वो चार लोग क्या कहेंगे बोलो. मैं हमेशा पूछता हूँ, वो चार लोग कौन है मुझे बताओ. Who are those four people? நாலு பேருக்கு தெரிஞ்சா என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க, யோசிச்சு பாருங்க. யார் அது நாலு பேர் சொல்லுங்க எனக்கு. You understand that four people become very important in our life, and I am yet to meet those four people. Actually, who are those four people? So that people, that importance to people, importance to situations, importance to environment. Actually, adi bhautika, the all these become, externally they become an obstacle actually. And the final thing is much more bigger, adi daivikam, that is, there is a cosmic arrangement. There are unexpected, unfortunate events that come in, that happen in our life, the natural circumstances that develop, or uncontrolled situation, which you are naturally helpless. Actually, you are not able to genuinely, get involved into the sadhana, but still it is an obstacle. So all these elements, the adhyatmika, adi bhautika, and adi daivika, all these are actually the challenges that come in for us to actually experience the reality. So therefore, from a practical understanding, whatever we are trying to understand from these theories, what we can say is that knowledge can become an obstacle in itself. That is what is very important for us to understand here. A person may know scriptures, may know philosophy, may know mantras, may know rituals, but yet they remain so impatient, they remain so angry, they remain so insecure, they remain being judgmental. Then this knowledge, what we are trying to gain as wisdom, what it is helping us is something very important that we need to understand. And the moment when we talk about this, intelligently, what people will say, the other person is like that, so what will I do? Let the other person be like that. You don't be like that. As Gandhiji has said, the change starts from you. Actually, why you have to think about the others? Actually, with the moment when it comes to us, we want to take example of everybody, so that we want to validate that, okay, I am wrong because everybody is wrong. Actually, got it. So knowledge does not automatically become wisdom. This is what I'm trying to say. You are all, or rather, we are all already suffering by being born in this material world, getting into all kinds of entanglement that we are already there. Let this Mahavidyalaya doesn't become another entanglement to anybody in the name of sadhana. I'm being very open and outright. So therefore, how this happens actually, like if doing this sadhana, like I mean, definitely let me tell you outwardly, because there are a lot of people who are doing systematic sadhana, like doing the sadhana. What I would say is that I would e- I will give an example that you are taking a powerful medicine actually. You are taking a powerful medicine. The medicine will heal, no doubt. Okay. But unfortunately, the medicine will also have some kind of side effect actually. You understand what I'm trying to say? Not going through that side effect, and you go through that process, maybe one in thousands might get that opportunity. You understand what I'm trying to say? Manifestations like crying, manifestations like anger, manifestations of agitation, manifestations of showing your anger unnecessarily on certain people, or manifestation of people getting angry on you. You know, nothing, you'd be doing your own work, but your husband or your son or daughter will land up shouting at you actually for no reason, actually. Like you don't even know, I didn't do anything wrong. Why they are showing this to me, actually? I mean, I'm just giving some example. Sleep pattern changes. It can be drastically different. You might end up sleeping so much, you might end up sleeping lesser. That there might be even problems related to sexuality, and all those aspects which is not spoken openly or not discussed because of all the taboos that are associated with it actually. No guidance on it, no proper channelization on it actually. you know so but what shastras, or what rather our teachers in the traditions have spoken is, these are not signs of failure. That is what something which we have to understand. These are not signs of failure. They are, nor they are signs of automatic spiritual advancement also. The only thing is that we require more awareness, and we require guidance. Guidance, not everybody is fortunate to get, but definitely you can have an awareness actually. You can create an awareness. And that awareness comes from where? Truly looking for that grace actually. That grace that should come out of the sadhana. You understand what I'm trying to say? Out of hundreds who are studying in our Mahavidyalaya, even if one will understand these concepts and go with these dimensions of progress, that would be the actual success of this Mahavidyalaya. And and let me give you one important clarification. Not every outburst is purification, actually. Like people end up telling that I faced a lot of challenges and were really that purified my existence. That might be a theory, but that is equally not to be a theory also. Not every disturbance is a spiritual progress. Let me tell you that also. So therefore, do not become judgmental. This is something very important. I've given it in block letters in my slides. Hold on, actually, which is very important. You have to continue that path, actually. If you're going to use your limited sensibilities, limited thought process, your limited brain, then you keep shifting. You know, you keep judging yourself, you keep judging everything around, you know, because the moment you become judgmental, you become panic. You start condemning yourself. You start looking for validations. And also, as sadhakas, we are not supposed to equally judge anybody else because everybody is fighting their own battles actually in every sensibilities, within even the domain of religion and spirituality. So, therefore, humility is very important. We will fall. We have to understand, you know, but we learn to get up to move further actually. What will happen? I am running on the road. Okay. I immediately, for example, what should I do? I should put I should put a bandage and everything, and then I should move forward. Correct. I might not be able to run, but I should move forward. Yes or no? Will I come back from wherever I was? No, I fallen. It is like I'm like bleeding now. I can't go further. If you cannot go further, you are stuck there. Correct. If you come back, it's a total loss of that journey actually. So you might fall, but you learn that if I'm going to do this, this might lead to this. So with that experience, you continue, which is very important. Now, how should I develop all these things? If this is the question, silence, prayers, gratitude, patience, sincerity, and self observation. This is are all the mantras actually. Then you can chant Devi Kavacham Lalita Sahasnamam Saundarya Lahari XYZ, writing, flaunting in different reflections, and all these things are fine. But are you able to do this to yourself, in your interpersonal space? Are you able to remain silent? Are you able to remain prayerful, not just in your puja room, but always? Is there gratitude in you? Gratitude for everything. We have to ask these questions on a day-to-day basis to ourselves actually. And what you need to avoid, I've already written very clearly there. So therefore, if I have to sum total up my class, the goal of the sadhana is not perfection. Please understand, all of you. Just because of the reason you are associated in a school and you are trying to learn something, you cannot stamp yourself that you have become some kind of paramatma putra or something like that. You understand? You are that, very true, but like you can't start acting like one. You have to really be one. You understand the difference, right? You cannot do this judgment to yourself that I am doing sadhana. How can I think like this about myself? How can I indulge in this XYZ activity like this? Or rather, you do that to the same to the others. No, that you should not or cannot do it actually, which most of us are rather doing it at a every moment basis actually. You have no rights to judge yourself or others in the path of sadhana. And the goal of the sadhana, as I mentioned, is not perfection, but it is refinement step by step, which is very clear. It is not that refinement on one whole. Today you are getting mantra diksha. Tomorrow you are coming and standing and saying, Guruji, I have transformed. I have refined. Wearing one white dress and standing like a ghost and telling that I have refined. No. You understand? That's the last thing I would believe, or anybody will believe. So therefore, the real battle against that Bhandasura begins on a battlefield, but in a moment, a sadhaka becomes willing to honestly absorb their own mind. Actually, this is something very important. My closing words. You should be brutally honest to yourself. We can keep lying to the entire world. We can keep pretending to the entire world. But the moment you are honest with yourself, then that is the step that starts with refinement, actually. And that observation is the true beginning of Devi's grace in your life, actually. With this, I sum up the class. Thank you so much. I hope this was really useful to all of you. I would like to truly look forward for your reflections and your comments or questions or queries that you have. We are just sharing the link. You can write it. And if it is something very deeply personal that you wanted to write or talk to me, you can write an email. Otherwise, if it is very generalized, I would prefer you put it in the Facebook so that it goes in a chain of questions and comments and questions and comments, which will be easy for everybody. You saw the poll. You don't have to be shy. There is a lot of friends you have here. So we are all sailing in the same boat. Even I'm in the same boat, actually. Maybe I'm the driver of this boat, actually. So let us all safely, rather than getting into Bhandasura Loka, let us all safely land up in Sripuram, actually. On our way, in our journey, let us do all the refinements, and land up, rather than taking the diversion. We will go actually to the destiny where we are supposed to go, actually. So let it happen. I hope this was useful to all of you, because we keep talking about other aspects, the Lalita Sahasranamam, Saundara Lahari, Devi Mahatmyam, this, that, and all these things. But this is what is truly needed, students. Please understand, actually, unless and until we have these basic qualities of being, human. From human you become humane, and from humane you become, divine, actually. That is the transformation that happens, actually. Are we first of all human, or rather we are animalistic yet? And we are fighting between these two tendencies, are sometimes animalistic and sometimes human. That is what we have to really ask, these very harsh questions to ourselves. Forget even talking to me, you talk to yourself, actually. That's the step, actually. That's where we begin with. And when you're talking to yourself, you don't immediately try to conclude, you don't immediately try to look for solutions. You go through this process, actually. You go through this process of sadhana. You be honest with yourself. You take up this, you make a sankalpa. This path will unfold it, actually. That's the way it unfolded for me. That's the way it has unfolded for many people who are traveling here, and that is the way it is going to unfold for you also, actually. You need to trust it. And that's the best part. Trust and faith and hope are the three things that I would leave you with, actually. Thank you so much. Let's do the Mangalam. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshamak Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swada Namostute Om Shanti 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 Sarvam Shri Chandi Mahalakshmi Arpanamastu Tathastu. Thank you so much. Looking forward for your writings, actually. Your writing is directly talking to me. Thank you.